Welcome back to No Way Nickels, y'all. Hey, listen, my content's for educational purposes only. Can't stress enough for you guys to do your own research. Praise my content and the errors you find throwing the comments. None of us have been alive long enough to know all that transpired in the past, and none of us can live long enough to know all there is to learn. Hey, I think I'm considering making this my last video of this subject matter. Um, so I would really pay attention, if you've been following. And I'll just leave it at that. This is going to be a reading of the United States Congressional Record of March 17th, 1933. I'll be reading as clearly and as legible as I'm capable of. Hopefully, everybody can hear me fine. It's not going to be a long video. I'm not going to drag it out or draw it out. At this point, man, it's either you get it or you don't get it. Either you're going to do some independent research and see, what the possibilities are, or you find what the way things is. And I'm cool whichever way you decide. Anyway, Speaker Representative James Traficant Jr., Representative of Ohio, addressing the House. Mr. Speaker, we are here now in Chapter 11, referring to bankruptcy. Members of Congress are official trustees presiding over the greatest reorganization of any bankrupt entity in world history, the U.S. government. We are setting forth, hopefully, a blueprint for our future. There are some who say it is a coroner's report that will lead to our demise. It is an established fact that the United States federal government has been dissolved by the Emergency Banking Act, March 9, 1933, 48 Statute 1, Public Law 89-719, declared by President Roosevelt, being bankrupt and insolvent. House Joint Resolution 192, 73rd Congress in session, June 5, 1933, Joint Resolution to suspend the gold standard and abrogate the gold clause dissolved the sovereign authority of the United States and the official capacities of all United States governmental officers, and departments, and is further evidence that the United States federal government exists today in name only. The receivers of the United States bankruptcy are the international bankers via the United Nations, the World Bank, and the International Monetary Fund. All United States offices, officials, and departments are now operating with a de facto status in name only under emergency war powers. With the constitutional Republican form of government now dissolved, the receivers of the bankruptcy have adopted a new form of government for the United States. This new form of government is known as a democracy, being an established socialist/communist order under a new governor for America. This act was instituted and established by transferring and or placing the office of the Secretary of Treasury to that of Governor of the International Monetary Fund. Public Law 94-564, page 8, section HR 13955 reads in part, the United States Secretary of Treasury receives no compensation for representing the United States. Gold and silver were such a powerful money during the founding the founding of the United States of America that the founding fathers declared that only gold and silver coins can be money in America. Since gold and silver coinage were heavy and inconvenient for a lot of transactions, they were stored in banks and a claim check was issued as a money substitute. People traded their coupons as money or currency. Currency is not money, but a money substitute. Redeemable currency must promise to pay a dollar equivalent in gold or silver money. Federal Reserve notes, or FRNs, make no such promises and are not money. A Federal Reserve note is a debt obligation of the federal United States government, not money. The federal United States government and the U.S. Congress were not and have never been authorized by the Constitution for the United States of America to issue currency of any kind, but only lawful money, gold and silver coin. It is essential that we comprehend the distinction between real money and paper money substitute. One cannot get rich by accumulating money substitutes. One can only get deeper into debt. We the people no longer have any money. Most Americans have not been paid any money for a very long time, perhaps not in their entire lifetime. Now do you comprehend why you feel broke? Now do you understand why you are bankrupt, along with the rest of the country? Federal Reserve notes, or FRNs, are unsigned checks written on a closed account. FRNs are an inflatable paper system designed to create debt through inflation, devaluation of currency. Whenever there is an increase of the supply of a money substitute in the economy without corresponding increase in the gold and silver backing, inflation occurs. Inflation is an invisible form of taxation that irresponsible governments inflict on their citizens. The Federal Reserve Bank, who controls the supply and movement of FRNs, has everybody fooled. They have access to an unlimited supply of FRNs, paying only for the printing cost of what they need. FRNs are nothing more than promissory notes for the U.S. Treasury securities, T-bills, a promise to pay the debt to the Federal Reserve Bank. There is a fundamental difference between paying and discharging a debt. To pay a debt, you must pay with value or substance, i.e. gold, silver, barter, or a commodity. With FRNs, you can only discharge a debt. You cannot pay a debt with a debt currency system. You cannot service a debt with a currency that has no backing in value or substance. No contract in common law is valid unless it involves an exchange of good and valuable consideration. Unpayable debt transfers power and control to the sovereign power structure that has no interest in money, law, equity, or justice because they have so much wealth already. Their lust is for power and control. Since the inception of central banking, they have controlled the fates of nations. The Federal Reserve System is based on the canon law and the principles of sovereignty protected in the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. In fact, the international bankers used the canon law trust as their model, adding stock and naming it a joint stock trust. The United States Congress had passed a law making it illegal for any legal person to duplicate a joint stock trust in 1873. The Federal Reserve Act was legislated post facto to 1870, although post facto laws are strictly forbidden by the Constitution. The Federal Reserve System is a sovereign power structure separate and distinct from the federal United States government. The Federal Reserve is a maritime lender and or maritime insurance underwriter to the federal United States, operating exclusively under admiralty/maritime law. The lender or underwriter bears the risk, and the maritime law compelling specific performance and paying the interest or premiums are the same. Assets of the debtor can also be hypothecated to pledge something as a security without taking possession of it. That's what hypothecate means. As security by the lender or underwriter. The Federal Reserve Act stipulated that the interest on the debt was to be paid in gold. There was no stipulation in the Federal Reserve Act for ever paying the principal. Prior to 1913, most Americans owned clear allodial, key word y'all, allodial title to property, free and clear of any liens or mortgages until the Federal Reserve Act 1913 hypothecated all property within the federal United States to the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve, in which the trustees or stockholders held legal title. The U.S. citizen tenant franchisee was registered as a beneficiary of the trust via his or her birth certificate. In 1933, the federal United States hypothecated all of the present and future properties, assets, and labor of their subjects. Guess who the subjects are, y'all? The 14th Amendment U.S. citizen to the Federal Reserve System. In return, the Federal Reserve System agreed to extend the Federal United States Corporation all credit money substituted needed. Like any other debtor, the Federal United States government had to assign collateral and security to their creditors as a condition of the loan. Since the Federal United States didn't have any assets, they assigned the private property of their economic slaves, the U.S. citizens, as collateral against the unpayable federal debt. They also pledged the unincorporated federal territories, national parks, forests, birth certificates, and nonprofit organizations as collateral against the federal debt. All has already been transferred as payment to the international bankers. Unwittingly, America has returned to its pre-American Revolution feudal roots, whereby all land is held by a sovereign and the common people had no rights to hold a allodial title to property. Once again, we the people are the tenants and sharecroppers renting our own property from a sovereign in the guise of the Federal Reserve Bank. We the people have exchanged one master for another. This has been going on for over 80 years without the informed knowledge of the American people. Without a voice protesting loud enough, now it's easy to grasp why America is fundamentally bankrupt. Why don't more people own their properties outright? Why are 90% of Americans mortgaged to the hilt and have little or no assets after all debts and liabilities have been paid? Why does it feel like you are working harder and harder and getting less and less? We are reaping what has been sown, and the results of our harvest is painful bankruptcy. In a foreclosure on American property, precious liberties, and a way of life. Few of our elected representatives in Washington, D.C. have dared to tell the truth. The federal United States is bankrupt. Our children will inherit this unpayable debt and the tyranny to enforce paying it. America has become completely bankrupt in world leadership, financial credit, and its reputation for courage, vision, and human rights. This is an undeclared economic war, bankruptcy, and economic slavery of the most corrupt order. Wake up, America. Take back your country. Again, that was the Speaker, Representative James Traficant Jr., this was him addressing the House. The United States Congressional Record, March 17th, 1933. I'm about to cut this joint off, but before I do, let me just pose this question to you. You can look that up too. You know, for those that think, you know, I'm trying to push an agenda or I want y'all to think what I think or believe, you know, all that old nonsense that people be talking nowadays. This is just the facts. You can look it up. This was the United States Congressional Record, March 17th, 1933. Representative James Traficant Jr. He was a representative of Ohio, and he was addressing the House with what I just read to y'all. So before I cut this off, let me ask all you political enthusiasts a question. Did y'all know this? If you did know it, why you ain't told nobody? And if you didn't know it, and if you do have intention on looking it up to appraise its factual nature, how is this going to change the way you operate? For all my brothers and sisters in the muck, how does this change your perception? You know, you know, any of y'all that have the capacity to look this up, and we all have it, look up what I just read to y'all. And when you see that it's real, how does it make you feel? All the time you done, all the blood you might have shed, all the ducking and dodging and all that shit you did or still doing for some shit that really ain't got no worth. For all you sucker motherfuckers out there that's basically, you know, you live and die for this shit. Anybody, you know, can be a victim for this bullshit that don't got no real worth. Because you can't never own nothing if you paying a debt with a debt. And by virtue of the 14th Amendment, United States citizens are subjects of the United States. Learn your law, player. And look, what I'm talking about is the ones that fuck their own people around for some money. Those are the sucker motherfuckers I'm speaking of. You know what I mean? It is what it is. But at the end of the day, how does it make you feel? You know? Knowing that these international bankers can, man, listen. I just hope, you know, as always, man, that, you know, if this attracts your attention, please do your own research. The rabbit hole runs deep. I've been saying these things to people and saying it on my channel for a minute now. You know what I mean? As time goes on, you know, we are in the age of Aquarius, you know, the knowing, the revelation, you know, so all things hidden are finding their way to the surface. You know, so do with this what you may, man. But I just felt obligated to let y'all know what you know, with proof, what kind of time it is and how we all been played. And if they did something as devious as this, what else have they been doing? Y'all be easy, man.